Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us at USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is the United Kingdom News and Culture, episode 142. I just can't believe we're at 142. Thank you so much for making it possible. I'm your host, author DIANN BOEHM. Let's welcome our first team member, the incredibly talented royal photographer, co-host of the Royally Rich Lifestyle, and co-host for the Royal Breaking News from London. She's also a royal expert and the woman in the know, HELENA CHARD.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, Diane. So lovely to see you. It's been a little while.
It has. Lovely to have you, and you just make the day sparkle. That's all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm going to bring out our Scottish team member. Our Scottish team member, everyone, is the fabulous chef, author, speaker, and so much more. Please welcome Simon Macdonald.
Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday again. It's nice to be back. You know, every time you introduce me, I can just feel myself blushing furiously. And then suddenly I think, oh, you're making my head get bigger.
Wow. You're so sweet. Today it would be fun to have all three of us out together and kind of, you know, share about the morning real quick before we get on with the show. So I understand It's a little nippy up there.
It's, well, a bit nearer the North Pole than you are. So, yeah, it's been about -5 and it's been snowing and, you know, all the joys of Christmas are coming on, I think, in one long lump. I mean, last week it was really quite warm. And there was no wind. It was dull, but that was it. But now, wow, it's suddenly the temperatures have plummeted, and you know, winter's come along.
I'm smiling through the fact I'm sat in the studio at the moment, which is great, but there's no heating because it's broken down, so it's a little chilly. I'm smiling still.
Yeah, I think Chile and London temperatures is probably around about the sort of mid-70s. I think at least it usually is when I go to London.
It's about -5 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's snowing anyway.
Yes. No, we've had -5, -7 thereabouts, and so yeah, it tends to sort of make you think a little bit. You know?
And is this Celsius that you're referring to, or Fahrenheit? Sorry.
Yeah, we actually seem to be getting mixed between Celsius and Fahrenheit here as well when we're talking about -5. -5 in Fahrenheit would be rather cold. -5 in centigrade must be about 23 Fahrenheit, I think. Yeah.
That's still pretty cold.
28, something like that.
Well, y'all just come on. I'm going to put on my Texas accent. Y'all just come on down to Texas. It's nice and warm.
I'll do some gardening with you, Diane.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, I'm on to Skyscanner already, booking my flights.
Wouldn't that be dandy? Well, we better get on with the show. Helena, what do you have for us today?
Okay, so lots and lots of royal news going on, as always. But so I'm going to have a few snippets of what's been going on. And I'm going to start with, let me just say, you know, King Charles, amazing how busy he is. I just, you know, he is incredible. So, you know, sending him lots of love. But I'm going to begin with as we know as well, the King, he plays a vital role in our UK diplomacy. And last night, there was a glitzy white tie and tiara event at Buckingham Palace where the King, Queen and William, Prince William, not the Princess of Wales, welcomed more than 500 members of the diplomatic corps to the state rooms at the palace. Now, it's a really fabulous do. It's something that's really high up in the calendar, in the royal calendar. It's one of the biggest events. Actually, once the spouses are also invited, you're looking at sort of something like more than 1,500 guests from around 130 different countries. So it's, as I say, the biggest reception at the palace sort of all year. So the guest list includes people like the ambassadors, the high commissioners of the foreign missions in London, former prime ministers, archbishops of Canterbury and York, and other so all the public leading figures. And the dress code is amazing as well, because you can have the national dress, or you can have white tie court dress, which actually can also be breeches for males, which is interesting. Obviously, for the women, you normally have the long evening dress and tiaras. And I think it's something that's special as well this year is that Queen Camilla gave a touching tribute to her husband as she donned the family order, but also wore a lovely tiara, a dazzling tiara, which was the late Queen Elizabeth. So that was honouring the late Queen Elizabeth. And so it's you sort of meet and greet, a buffet, drinks reception, and you actually do go to the ballroom and it's a lot of dancing. But I think the actual royal family leave before the dancing begins. So a very, very special evening was had by all. So moving on, we have had, it's something that's sort of slightly worrying to a lot of people, so a security breach on the Windsor estate perimeter. Now, the level of security is now being looked at on the whole of Windsor estate. Now, this is known as the Ring of Steel, but obviously it hasn't been the Ring of Steel in this situation. So this was a while ago, it was Sunday, October the 13th, where two masked men scaled a 6-foot wall or fence, I think. They broke into an outbuilding, which was part of Shaw Farm, which is actually a working farm on the estate. And it was like a burglary, really. They picked up a truck and a black truck and a red quad bike. And they actually drove through the security fence, which was of Shaw Farm, to get out. And that was the time that the police were actually alerted. Now, this is 5 minutes from Adelaide Cottage, where the Prince and Princess of Wales and children live. There's lots of investigations going on by Thames Valley Police, and the royal family, as always, aren't going to comment. I think one thing to say is that, to remember there are so many layers of security. There was no chance really of people being, touched as such. It's almost like an onion. You peel back all those different layers, and there's so much involved. But obviously, a lot of people have been saying, it was nearly a break-in to Windsor Castle. It wasn't at all. And in fact, as I said, it's sort of at least 5 minutes or more from where Prince William and Princess Kate live. But in the past, interestingly, it wasn't that long ago. I think it was Xmas 2021 when a man with a crossbow wandered around Windsor. It was an awful situation. I think there was sort of a mental health situation there, but he was saying he wanted to kill the Queen. In April 22, there was a fake priest that managed to get into Windsor Barracks. That's where the Coldstream Guards stay. And he actually managed to make them believe that he was a fake priest, and he stayed overnight and he had dinner. And obviously, these people, they protect them on at Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace, so quite something. And I think even a long time ago, which was something which was quite amazing at the time, in 1982, a person called Michael Fagan, he scaled the drain pipe of Buckingham Palace, and he actually managed to get into the late Queen Elizabeth's bedroom and sat there on her bed while she was having breakfast until he was caught. And she obviously had to speak with him. So that is something that I remember incredibly. So moving on, it's something that they're looking into at the moment, which has caused a bit of upset. Happy birthday, happy 76th birthday to King Charles. Now, obviously, this was a few days ago, 14th of November. He is so thankful to be alive, as you can imagine. I do love him incredibly, and he's so warm and tactile. And luckily for him, he didn't receive his red box on his birthday. Now, every day he has his red box full of letters and forms and everything that takes a long time to go through, but he had a break. I was asked by lots of different platforms, oh my goodness, there's so much going on. Hasn't it taken the shine off of his birthday? What about the Andrew problem? This is, posed such a problem for him. How has he managed? Of course he managed. It's one of these things that the royal family have been through so much over the years. And the Andrew problem is just something that just rumbles on. But just to recap, King Charles has cut his living allowance and security off now, where he lives at Royal Lodge. Is he going to be forced to make his way on his own, Prince Andrew? I don't know. Apparently he's struck a deal with a certain person to stay there now. And of course, he does have his lease in place, and as long as he tick boxes everything, someone, we don't know who, has given him the money to keep up to keep, and also to keep his security, although it's a cheaper security. And I think there's a whole sort of mysterious thing about the royal finances. But, as I say, he cheers to be alive, and he's not too bothered. Prince Andrew is just a brother to him. I think the late Queen Elizabeth obviously would have been far more helpful to Prince Andrew. Let's just say I don't think King Charles views him too favourably. I think Prince Andrew was the favourite son to Queen Elizabeth. And obviously King Charles is not going to be as forgiving and as caring as his mother would be. So there is a little bit of animosity. But moving forward, let's hope things pick up. It seems he can now maintain his lease. I think it could possibly be his son-in-law that's helped him out. But I know members of Parliament are wanting to know, they're demanding to know where this cash has come from, because obviously it has to be from an okay source, but the Privy Purse says yes, all is fine. Princess of Wales, how lovely was it to see her at the Festival of Remembrance last Saturday evening, looking beautiful and glamorous, and also at the Cenotaph on the balcony Sunday daytime. Really beautiful. It was just so lovely to see her smiling away. And we've discovered as well that there is a senior royal who is like her big sister. And I'd not thought about this before, but now it's suddenly, you sort of think, gosh, yes, I can see it now. And that's the wonderful Duchess of Edinburgh, who is amazing within the royal family, such a help, and does really great work. But she was there supporting Princess Catherine at the Cenotaph, where I think that it was seen by a lip reader that she was finding it quite hard, because it was a sad occasion. And the lovely Duchess of Edinburgh put her arm around her and sort of helped her through things. We do also know that the Princess of Wales has held a secret meeting at Windsor Castle today, where she's celebrated a key event. Now, it's actually World Children's Day today, and she's been working on her early years project. So we may not see her always in public. She has to sort of pick and choose, really, because you see she's edging her way into her work. And the lovely thing is, and I think this is a really fabulous thing, is that she is going to be doing her Christmas Carol service on December the 6th. Now, we all look forward to that each year. She thinks through the themes incredibly carefully. And this year, it's going to be, really thinking about our support networks in our lives during difficult times. So the importance of family and community. And what's so beautiful about this, I think it's a lovely way it's an uplifting, festive note to end the year for her and her family. So that's a little bit about the Princess of Wales. Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth, as we know, every monarch sort of writes a diary. It's something that's expected of them. And Queen Elizabeth, can you imagine how many diaries she's written? I mean, so many. And the new monarch, obviously the King Charles, is going to be appointing an official biographer. Now, this biographer is going to look back over all the years of diaries that Queen Elizabeth wrote, and from this is going to create Queen Elizabeth's biography. And this is obviously a nod to Queen Elizabeth. She every day would sit there in her office, not in bed, and she'd write her diary, and it would be no less than, apart from her final entrance into her diary, it would be no less than half a page. And we've heard about this through Hardman and a new book, what's a new rewrite of Charles III, New King, New Court. And the interesting thing is the Queen Elizabeth last entry, she just wrote 5 words in that. So I'd love to be able to read it. I don't think it's going to be something open to the public. But what we do know is that she died very peacefully, which was a good thing to hear. And also, who was it who said that? I think it was John Wheeler. Now, John Wheeler, John Wheeler was someone that, wrote George VI biography. So all those years ago, goodness me, there's so many different things. So it was the Right Reverend Dr. Ian Greenshields, who is General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, and he was with the late Queen in Balmoral. And really interesting, just the way she said that she was just, she didn't regret anything. She felt calm and peace. And I think a couple of days she passed. So interesting just to sort of read sort of snippets from Hardman's book. But I look forward to knowing who this biographer is going to be, because it's going to be something special, I think. And this is my last story. I don't know how long I've been talking for, but I will continue the last story. So King Charles, but more importantly, Queen Camilla, has lost her much-loved companion. Now, the much-loved companion is a beautiful dog called Beth. And dogs, as we know, are so important to the whole royal family. And Camilla adopted 2 Jack Russells, but firstly it was Beth in 2011, and this was from Battersea Cats and Dogs Home. 12-year-old puppy, and I think Beth first, and another dog, Bluebell, a year later. Interesting as well. I mean, it's so beautiful, so much so, it meant so much to her that there was lots of embroidery on her wedding dress of the 2 dogs, including Beth. And also, Beth turned up to a few openings with Queen Camilla. One of them was an engagement at the Battersea Dogs and Cats Home in Windsor Centre, where she actually pulled the curtain and opened a flap. And they used a sausage to do that. So she'd pull at the blue satin veil. But so lovely, and it's a sort of sad time, but it sort of makes you realise as well how important animals are in your life. So there we go. And also there was a beautiful photograph, we don't have that, but where it was the Queen and King and the two pups that stole the show, and that was to mark the 15th wedding anniversary of the King and Queen, and that was in 2020. No, that can't be right, can it? The date's completely wrong there. But anyway, it was a picture that was used. It's really, really beautiful. And I think that's it. I think I've been gabbling on for a long time. There's so much more. And I would just like to say that King Charles, wow, and Queen Camilla, and people are so, so busy and full of energy. And I admire them all. Thank you.
Thank you. Fabulous information. I don't even know where to begin. I wish we had another whole hour just to discuss every single topic, but I'm in shock about Andrew being able to stay where he is.
I know. I mean, I'm not sure, it's one of those things, if you have a lease, and I suppose it's a legality and you can cover that lease, it's one of those things. But I think personally, I think now it's become a bit like so much talk about it. I think sometimes it's best to keep moving forward and put things in the not in the background, but don't sort of dwell on it too much, because I think there's a lot more going on in our very fractured world at the moment, rather than him in his, his palace, essentially. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor
Yeah.
thing was going to have to go to a cottage. The people wish they had half of that size.
Cottage, I know. So let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. And I absolutely love y'all's Remembrance Day. When I was living in Dubai, we at the Anglican church there, we celebrated it, and it was so beautiful the way we did it. So, yeah.
It was good to remember people.
Yeah. Good. Simon.
Yes.
Any comments before we move to your wonderful part of the show?
Right. Oh, well, I mean, as usual, let's start off with some factoids of strange but true. So here we go. Now, standing around burns calories. On average, a 150-pound person burns 114 calories per hour while standing and doing nothing. Oh, I'm going to take up that kind of sport. That sounds good fun to me. And on that sort of theme, well, when you exercise, the burned fat metabolizes to become carbon dioxide, water, and energy, meaning that you exhale the fat that you lose. Well, I'll subscribe to that one. Standing around, doing nothing, and that's supposed to be exercise, and I burn fat, and well, yeah, yippee, that sounds a good idea. Right, brain fibers lose 10% of their total length every decade. They can shrink even more so under acute stress. I think I know some people who can do that rather than every decade. They'll lose 10% every 10 minutes. So we all know people like that. Now, 75% of the world's diet is produced from just 12 plants and 5 different animal species. There's food for thought, indeed. Then, per capita, the happiest countries in the world also rank highest in terms of consumers of antidepressants. Well, I mean, wouldn't you know it? So that's today's factoids. I decided this time to try and keep them on the health kick and so on. Yeah, maybe I could do some of that myself. So, having done that, let's have a look at today's piece. And, here we are, we're watching television and so on. Do you know, television wouldn't have come about had it not been for a Scotsman, lived not far from here in the town of Helensburgh. But there was an interesting thing that came up first as well, and it's the renowned French philosopher Voltaire, who famously said, "We look to Scotland for all our ideas of civilization." And that's actually quite true, because there's so many things that come out of Scotland or have been born in Scotland. So where would the world be without television? Of all the inventions of relatively modern times, I think television has to rank as one of the most important, and that's thanks to the genius of a Scotsman, John Logie Baird. He was born on the 13th of August, 1888, in Helensburgh in Dumbartonshire, which is not a long way from where I am here. And he was the youngest of 4 children of the Reverend John Baird and Jessie Morrison Ingalls, who was the orphaned niece of the wealthy Ingalls family of the shipbuilders' fame from Glasgow. He was educated at Larchfield Academy in Helensburgh and at the University of Glasgow, and Baird undertook a series of engineering apprenticeship jobs as part of his course, but his degree course was interrupted by the First World War, and he never actually returned to graduate. So at the beginning of 1915, he volunteered for service in the British Army, but was classified as unfit for active duty, unable to go to the front, so he took a job with the Clyde Valley Electrical Power Company, which was engaged in munitions work. In early 1923, and in poor health, Baird moved to Hastings on the south coast of England. He rented a workshop in the Queen's Arcade in the town, and Baird built what was to become the world's first working television set, using items that included an old hat box, a pair of scissors, some darning needles, a few bicycle light lenses, a used tea chest, sealing wax, and glue that he'd purchased. A television? Wow. In February 1924, he demonstrated that a semi-mechanical television system was possible by transmitting moving silhouette images. And in July of the same year, he received a 1,000-volt electric shock, but survived with only a burnt hand. But as a result, his landlord asked him to vacate the premises. Oh, surprise, surprise. Soon after arriving in London, looking for publicity, Baird visited the Daily Express newspaper to promote his invention. The news editor was terrified, and he was quoted by one of his staff as saying, "For God's sake, go down to the reception, get rid of that lunatic who's down there. He says he's got a machine for seeing by wireless. Watch him, he may have a razor on him." Well, I mean, what would you say if somebody said, "Oh, you can see, he's created these moving images. Wow." Well, in these attempts to develop a working television system, Baird experimented using the Nipkow disc. Paul Gottlieb Nipkow had invented this scanning system in 1884. And Nipkow's work was important because Baird, followed by many others, chose to develop into the broadcast medium. In his laboratory on the 2nd of October 1925, John Logie Baird successfully transmitted the first television picture, which was the head of a ventriloquist dummy nicknamed Stooky Bill. Good Scots name. Well, Baird went downstairs then and fetched an office worker, 20-year-old William Edward Tainton, to see what the human face would look like. So Tainton actually became the first person to be televised. In June 1924, Baird had bought a FLOYD cell. Now, Baird's implementation of this cell allowed him to become the first person to produce a live, moving grayscale television image. And Baird, he achieved this where other inventors had failed by improving the signal conditioning from the cell through cooling it and his own designed video amplifier. So Baird gave the first public demonstration of moving silhouette images by television at Selfridge's department store in London in a 3-week series of demonstrations in March 1925. On the 26th of January 26, then Baird gave the first public demonstration of true television images for members of the Royal Institution and a reporter, of course, from the Times in his laboratory at 22 Frith Street in Soho in London. It was the first demonstration of a television system that could scan and display live moving images. And he demonstrated the world's first color transmission on the 3rd of July, 1928, long before it became mainstream. And that was using scanning discs at the transmitting and the receiving ends. Then the same year, he also demonstrated stereoscopic television, which again didn't come in until very much later. In 1927, Baird transmitted a long-distance television signal over 438 miles of telephone line between London and Glasgow's Central Station Hotel. Then Baird set up the Baird Television Development Company Limited, which in 1928 made the first transatlantic television transmission from London to Hartsdale, New York, and in 1929, the first television programs transmitted by the BBC. So in November 29, Baird and Bernard Nathan established France's first television company, Télévision Baird Nathan. Broadcasting on the BBC on the 14th of July 1930, The Man with the Flower in His Mouth was the first drama shown on UK television. I've been repeating it ever since. The BBC transmitted Baird's first live outside broadcast with the televising of the Derby in 1931. Then from 1929 to 1935, the BBC transmitters were used to broadcast television programmes using the Baird system. And 32 to 35, the BBC also produced the programmes in their own studio. In addition, Baird was producing and broadcasting a small number of television programmes independent from the BBC from Baird's own studios and transmitter at the Crystal Palace in London. So on the 2nd of November 1936, from Alexandra Palace, the BBC began alternating Baird's transmissions with EMI's system, which had recently been improved after a merger with Marconi. The BBC ceased broadcasts with the Baird system in February 1937, due in part to a disastrous fire in the Baird facilities at Crystal Palace. It was becoming quite apparent to the BBC that the Baird system would ultimately fail due in large part to the lack of mobility of the Baird cameras. Baird's contemporaries, such as George William Walton and William Stevenson were more successful as their patents underpinned the early television system using the Cacophony Limited, who operated in Britain up to World War II. And then in the US, Cacophony had no rivals in terms of technical performance. In 1948, then they acquired John Logie Baird Limited. Well, Baird's television systems were replaced by the first fully electronic television system, which was developed by the newly formed company EMI Marconi under Sir Isaac Schoenberg, who headed up a research group that developed the cathode ray tube for television receivers. The fire that burned Crystal Palace to the ground later that year hampered the Baird company's ability to compete. Well, I'm not surprised. If it's burned down, you got a problem. And Baird, well, he made many contributions to the field of electronic television after mechanical systems became obsolete. 1939, he showed a system known today as hybrid color, a method taken up by CBS and RCA in the United States. As early as 1940, Baird had started working on a fully electronic system called Telechrome. Using cyan and magenta phosphors, a reasonable limited color image could be actually obtained. So he also demonstrated the same system using monochrome signals to produce a 3D image, stereoscopic at the time. In 1941, he patented this system of three-dimensional television. And then on the 16th of August 1944, he gave the world's first demonstration of a full color television display. 1943, the Hankey Committee was appointed to oversee the resumption of television broadcasts after the war, and Baird persuaded them to make plans to adopt his proposed Telechrome color system as the post-war broadcast standard. Well, the committee's plan lost all momentum, partly due to the challenges of post-war reconstruction. The old monochrome 405 line standard remained in place until 1985 in some areas, and the 625 line system was introduced in 1964 and color in 1967. So that's not that long ago. Well, not in my age terms, sorry. A demonstration of large screen 3D television by the BBC was reported in March 2008, over 60 years after Baird's actual demonstration. Some of Baird's early inventions were not fully successful. In his 20s, he tried to create diamonds by heating graphite. Then, inspired by pneumatic tires, he attempted to make pneumatic shoes, but his prototype contains semi-inflated balloons which burst. Well, years later, the same idea was actually successfully adopted by Dr. Martin's boots. And he also invented a thermal undersock, which was moderately successful. Baird suffered from cold feet, so after a number of trials, they found that an extra layer of cotton inside the sock provided plenty of warmth. Between 1926 and 28, he attempted to develop an early video recording device, but technical difficulties with the system prevented its further development. Baird's other developments were in fiber optics, radio direction finding, infrared night viewing, and radar. Well, there's discussion about his exact contribution to the development of radar, but his wartime defence projects have never officially been acknowledged by the UK government. And what is known is that in 1926, Baird filed a patent for a device remarkably similar to radar, and that he was in correspondence with the British government at the time. The radar contribution, it's still in dispute to this day. So from December 1944, John Logie Baird lived at One Station Road in Bexhill-on-Sea on the south coast in East Sussex, and he later died there on the 14th of June 1946 after suffering a stroke in the February of that year. So John Logie Baird now is buried beside his parents back here in Helensburgh in the Argyll area of Scotland. A remarkable man, and yet another inventive Scot. I mean, there's a few of us around, so we do our best.
Wow. That was amazing. You know, it's so interesting that somebody comes up with an idea and it's so different and so unique, but they stick with it, and then they make it possible. And then because that, it sparks the minds of others that start building on it. And look where we are today. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, he was so far advanced, technologically for his years. But then, I mean, there's Scotland for you. We've invented all sorts of things. We've got television, telephone, telewoman, pneumatic tires, tires, and then what else have we got? We even invented the electric toaster, would you believe? So we're quite an inventive lot.
I guess why you are so cold in the winter for so long, you have nothing else to do but figure out how to create.
We've got long, dark winter nights. We got a lot of time in our hands to work out all these different things.
So I'm so grateful for that. I'm sorry y'all freeze a lot, but I'm really grateful to you.
Yeah. No, my grandfather, actually, his claim to fame was, the reflective road signs. You're driving at night and the lights shine on the sign and it looks as if it's illuminated. That was his invention, and it was just a coating of very, very fine glass beads in a lacquer which went over the signage, and that's it. So that was his claim.
He saved so many lives. Seriously.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. I can remember, and then I'm going to let you go into your next segment, but I just want to share with you that is so important what he created, because when I was younger, our family, we would drive to Oklahoma for Thanksgiving to see Grandma Floyd, and you would get into the countryside and there were no lights, but there were these reflectors, and Daddy would be driving. So I'm turning into a little girl, my daddy. He would be like following really close to those reflectors because the roads were so small, so that he would be in his lane. And I remember to this day that those reflectors, Daddy said if it wasn't for those, he wasn't sure if we were on the highway or not. So,
well, I mean, you see this material everywhere. I mean, even on clothing, reflective bands on trousers and sleeves and so on like that. It's all stemmed from that creation. So
I hope you have a good patent so you can keep ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yes. Anyway, let's move on.
We'll move on. Go ahead.
On this day, there we go. We've got a few today. In 1789, New Jersey is the first state to ratify the Bill of Rights. And then on this day in 1815, the Second Treaty of Paris, France and her allies agree France will pay indemnities after the Battle of Waterloo, thus ending the Napoleonic Wars. That was a heck of a war, that one. In 1931, this day, Rolls-Royce acquisition of Bentley Motors is announced. Rolls-Royce, of course, now belong to BMW, but Bentley is still an independent company and making fabulous cars. On this day, 2002, Die Another Day, the 20th James Bond movie is released, starring Pierce Brosnan and Halle Berry. This was actually Brosnan's last time as 007. I think he made a very good 007, but nobody can beat Sean Connery, we spoke about the other week. Birthdays on this day. Well, I sort of dug a bit deep for this one to see who I could find with the earliest birthday. So in the year 270, we haven't quite got to 2070 yet, 270, Maximinus II, Emperor of Roman Empire from 308 to 313, was born in Felix Romulana. Then in 1925, it was Robert F. Kennedy, the American politician, U.S. Attorney General, who was born in Brooklyn, Massachusetts. Then on this day in 1942, Joe Biden, the Democrat politician and 46th U.S. president, born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, 81 today. Happy birthday, Joe. Have a good one. And finally, deaths today. Right, 1910, Leo Tolstoy, the Russian novelist of Anna Karenina and War and Peace, dies of pneumonia, aged 82. Then 1975, Francisco Franco, the Spanish general and dictator, dies, aged 82. Not a good day to be 82, is it? Yeah. So there we go. This on this day. Let's see what comes up next week.
On this day, so many things.
There's always something happening. But it was amazing. Unless you were 82, actually, there weren't all that many other significant deaths that I can find from on this day. So yeah.
And the older I get, the 82 is really, you're just a spring chicken.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, age is just a number that denotes the amount of experience you have.
Yes. And hopefully become wise.
That's how I look at it.
Amen. And I think you have some more things for us.
Well, I don't know. I mean, sort of looking at my parting shot for today, I don't know. I mean, there's so many, I keep coming up with these stupid one-liners and so on as well. But, I mean, life's really simple, but we always insist on making it complicated. And certainly I advocate that as well. But never forgive your enemies. Because there's nothing, or always forgive your enemies, should I say, because nothing annoys them more than that. So there we are. So that's my parting shot for the day.
I think that's a really good one. If I could have a magic wand, I'd spread peace and happiness throughout the world for sure, and put food in people's tummy. So, yeah. But anyway, on a happier note, thank you so much for today. You always bring so much joy and wisdom to all of our listeners. And
I just love being here. And, I'm here by the grace of John Logie Baird. We're all here for the grace of John Logie Baird.
Yes, I think that's another book for you to do.
Where would the world be without television? Yeah. We'd all be reading books. By the way, it's coming up Christmas time. Diane's got some excellent books. I've even got one as well. So,
That's right. So we need to do a little commercial for us next time for sure, everybody. Please make sure you look up Simon Macdonald and Helena's CHARD. Simon, I can't believe it's time to close out the show. It goes so fast. I always look forward to doing this show with y'all. But thank you, Helena and Simon, for another great show. And thank you to our audience for joining us today for the UK News and Culture. Wherever you are in the world, I really hope that your life is filled with peace and love. Simon, do you have any closing words? Other than that, it'll be bye for now.
Sky's not the limit with all those footprints on the moon.
Well, man. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This program is brought to you in part by the British School of Excellence and founder, Mr. Philip Sykes. Building confidence, changing lives. Do you share our view that etiquette is a set of modern life skills that are essential for personal and professional success? Join us as an etiquette coach and change people's lives through the power of etiquette and manners.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I found I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
The last few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations.
This is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school. This class is the best. This is the best school ever.
You should take it. It will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you. Thank you, BS.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our clients for their testimonials on the Train the Trainer program. Our exponential and global growth is so significant that we've evolved from the British School of Etiquette to the British School of Excellence, where we're investors in people. Let us invest in you and your career. Contact us to become an etiquette coach. Go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. Start your career and elevate your success today.